right on Google Cloud's website. And this is their new Web3 section of their blog. So Flare Network gives blockchain a boost with a groundbreaking protocol running on Google Cloud. November 5th.
We want actually that marketplace of ideas to happen. We don't want it to be like, oh, well, only some people have access to those foundations and others are just stuck kind of winging it. And it's interesting because for a long time, and when I was at Consensus, there was a whole talk track around like what does the space need to get to the next step? Yeah. And everybody, no fault to them, would get up there and say like, you need to use our blockchain. That's the barrier. And like we got up and our story is a little different, which is like, this is about actually understanding what are the primitives and how do we put those primitives in as many people's hands as possible so that as many people we have a diversity of builders, different perspectives, different worldviews, and then let them compete in the marketplace of ideas. And I think everyone's now seeing that as like, oh wow, that's actually a really nice sandbox because I get to be agnostic. If I'm the concrete foundation and I don't have to worry about putting in the wiring and the plumbing and whether the business is going to work or not, that's a very hard thing to do. They want to try and push themselves to that foundational layer because then frankly it's an easier conversation to have. So I think that's what a lot of there is no doubt about it.
Welcome to the DeFi Standard, and this is Mickey B. Fresh.
This is Google's Web3 division, who has partnered with Coinbase and has developed a whole team around Web3. And this is a conversation that I don't think the community really got to have, but it's super important. Now, the true environment and infrastructure where blockchains run is on clouds or data centers. That's where they run. So applications need to run on some type of infrastructure, either a container or some type of hosting platform. Now, nodes need that, validators need that, testers need that. Interledger needs that. I mean, you need this type of hosting service. Now, going back to the early days of Codius was not a smart contract platform. It was a hosting protocol. And Google, I had a question the other day with Google and Amazon, why one over the other? Well, because Google has a marketplace built into it. So you're going to see here, Flare is looking to work into that marketplace with their data and their data provisioning. So listen to what he says here about the amount of developers that can be brought in to crypto and into the industry. That's what's missing right now. It's the mass adoption. It's the everyday developer that's at your Web2 company or one that's at your local bank. They can't enter crypto because it's too complicated to spin up nodes to do all these different things. So Google is going to allow a tremendous amount of different developers to enter. Now that they're doing Web3, what do you think is going to be right behind them? Amazon. All of them are going to be right behind it. This is what we need. It doesn't necessarily sacrifice the decentralization. It allows for things to spin up very fast. And remember, they pinned Flare's blog on their Twitter page. 440,000 Twitter followers Google Cloud has, and they pin that. So they're using the Kubernetes compute, and they're also using, I forgot what the other one was, the APIs. So they also have an AI machine learning category, and we'll go into this deeper, but not in this video. I just wanted to give a breakdown there of what he says. And this is at a conference, and now Google's making their way in. But this isn't Google. It's Google's special division. Now, just to give a history background, Google versus Amazon versus Apple. Google is known for open sourcing technology. Kubernetes is probably one of the most used container and orchestration cloud software in the world. And that was private. And they open sourced that in 2017, 2018, and it completely revolutionized all of the container industry, because they knew if they release it open source, all boats will rise, and then they could build out things on top of it. Same concept that Ripple's trying to do. And this open source concept is becoming more and more prevalent, even when you see Web 2 companies do that. So they're in that mindset. So listen to what he says here. This is at the recent Decrypt conference. And then he talks a little about what happened at MainNet.
What does success in general look like for Google Cloud, and then really all of Google, when it comes to crypto and blockchain, like 5 years out? What's the crystal ball? What would you like to see people think of when they think of Google and crypto or Web3?
Yeah, so I would like us to be sort of the best place for any developer, not just Web3 developers, not just Web2 developers, the best place for anybody to build a blockchain-based application.
And so, what success looks like 2, 3, 5 years out is the pipeline of developers that we have moving into crypto. Instead of it being a 2-lane highway and it's a trickle, it's like an 8-lane on-ramp. And
instead of it being a 2-lane highway and it's a trickle, it's like an 8-lane on-ramp.
And that's where I think, ultimately we're going to get what are the best outcomes for consumers, for people generally, is how do I get the smartest people in the room to access this technology and build on top of it without having to go through what there is now, which is like a lot of smoke screens, jargon, purity tests. And so, that's scary for like a new developer who's sitting there. There's a lot of people at Google generally who are deeply talented in this space, generally understand software engineering, and may very well build the next app. And this is not just Google, it's all Web 2 companies. There's probably somebody at like the bank down the street who wants to build. And right now it's really hard for them to do that. It's really hard for them to get access to those services, those tools. And if they go and they ask for an honest opinion, oftentimes they're going to get pointed in a direction that's very subjective. Oh, you should start here because I'm invested in that. We want it to be like very easy. So the idea is like remove barriers to entries for new developers so that we can get better applications built, and then ultimately have something that's resilient. It can stand the test of time. It's not going to be here for a year and gone next. It becomes not dependent on the people, but it becomes kind of, again, ephemeral, almost like this idea of blockchains themselves. It's immutable. It's there.
This is right on Google Cloud's website, and this is their new Web3 section of their blog. So Flare Network gives blockchain a boost with a groundbreaking protocol running on Google Cloud. And this is written by Hugo Filion and Josh Edwards. So Flare started as a research organization looking into the future of blockchain technology. This resulted in the development of our platform and the launch of Flare Network, a blockchain which presents developers with a simple and coherent stack for decentralized interoperability and decentralized applications on Flare that can safely access information from outside the Flare network, including prices and blockchain state, helping to establish a highly secure, interoperable, multi- and cross-chain solution. One benefit is that by building on top of Flare, it becomes possible to devise bridges that transport value from one blockchain to another with decentralized insurance that gives peace of mind to users by alleviating the risk to the user. Flare believes that the blockchain as an industry can scale to hundreds of millions of users and fulfill its potential to benefit multiple sectors from finance to healthcare. That's why our motto is connect everything. So even though Flare is a new startup, we have to maintain an enterprise levels of security and availability, our customers. With that, we turned to Google Cloud, that our environment was robust and highly secure from the start, as there is no better solution for tech companies when it comes to security than Google. So this comes down to the hosting and the APIs that they're using and the environment for their different services. Google Cloud Solutions provides us with a reliable infrastructure upon which we can build and monitor our services. Today, our automation is so advanced that we can have a new test network up and running within minutes. Once in place, we can quickly integrate it with any of our connected networks. enabling digital assets and on-chain information to flow freely. Google Cloud also gives us certainty that our system environments are resilient and available across 22 regions worldwide. We are confident that if anything happens in one of these areas, we can back up and running within minutes. Google Kubernetes Engine, GKE, provides a managed environment for deploying, managing, and scaling our containerized applications. We also take advantage of the compute engine to launch virtual machines on demand in less time, which reduces the burden of routine tasks on our engineering team. So before we get into the next section, I just want to explain what that is. So Flare is building applications, right? They're building the asset system. So that's where they say containerized applications, the layer cake protocol with bandwidth providers. It's a DeFi lending collateral protocol. So that's the core infrastructure of everything that's going to be built cross-chain and on Flare. So this has to be enterprise grade, the best. This isn't one of those experiments we're going to test out, and have 2 nodes there hosting it. This has got to be at the top. So the compute engine. So when we're talking about having constellation of Flare, when we have a whole nother network with a state connector, what does that mean? You need a whole nother smart contracting language, a whole nother virtual machines, and they need to go up fast because you need to get them on the testnet. You need to get them on Songbird. Then they got to go on Flare. This whole 3-year thing, I think people got a little used to thinking things take forever. They take forever because you want to launch with the most security and the most capabilities to succeed. You only get one time to launch with the size of a community and with what they're doing. So they've put together these partnerships and this infrastructure on the back end. So we recently began using Apigee to streamline our GTM and security operations for a future API-based Web3 cross-chain infrastructure offering. Multi-chain to support our chargeable API platform. This is what it looks like. This is the website. It's API portal. And the API portal is a gateway to Flare's chains and connected chains. Now, some of this isn't used part of the network, but then certain enterprise applications and other things that are going to want the data. Flare, their 3 co-founders are all machine learning and AI experts in quantum machine learning. So you would think they would be curating the data. So that makes sense that they're going to want to have the best APIs, the best compute. So currently we have APIs available for Flare networks, which includes Flare, Songbird, Costin 1, and Costin 2. So just a quick breakdown. The test network of Flare is not Songbird. It's Costin 2. The test network of Songbird is Costin 1, which means it has a faucet with not real money. Now, yes, Songbird is like the canary network, but it is not a test network. A test network means no money, no value. It's just faucet. There's unlimited tokens. It's there for testing. So that's what Costin 1 and 2 are. So we also have APIs available for Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, XRPL, and Algorand. Our promise is to add every API for every network Flare integrates within the future. So I'd expect Stellar's right behind that too. Get quick and reliable access for scale, powered by a highly scalable, automated, and secure blockchain infrastructure using the latest technologies to power your Web3 access, built with speed, security, and availability in mind. Accelerate your Web3 and dApp development. Secure, built using NCSC grade security architecture guidelines. So it's like the highest level of security that the Google Cloud platform has there that they're using, that component, using Google Cloud and Cloudflare to provide highly scalable and available APIs. And I know somebody's going to ask, well, is it still decentralized now? This just has to do with the data and the infrastructure that's hosted on the cloud. They're all hosted on some type of infrastructure on cloud. Now, a lot just like pay for just Amazon services and nodes. This is being built at an enterprise level, open source, cloud-based, advanced technology built for Web3. So Google has put a massive amount of money into this. They put a digital asset team. A whole Web3 team is out. So government and financial grade security. Google Cloud has several government and financial grade certificates that help ensure an environment is secure, safe, and monitored. For example, Google has received the UK's National Cyber Security Center's Cyber Essentials Plus certification for both Google Cloud and Google Workspace. So Google Cloud credits has also enabled us to optimize our spend, which is critical as we navigate the startup process. So what they did was here, I found this, and I thought this was really the most significant. So they won this down here. This. So supercharge your growth with Google for Startups Cloud program. So get access to startup experts and cloud costs covering up to 100,000. So they were picked into this scale tier 2 because they already raised a Series A, and they're one of the few that were chosen here. So they're going to get up 100,000 in Google Cloud credits, and they have a whole workshop and a whole developer team from Google that's working with their engineers. So this is a huge deal because why? This is the marketplace where then all the other applications and developers and projects are able to interact with, right? There's a whole marketplace here and a whole DApp builders. So the type of, you have Dapper, you have Discord. I mean, these are just some of the few early ones on this, but this includes everything that's Google Cloud. I mean, Google Cloud is, does a lot of the government stuff too. I know Amazon does some, but Google is now fully open sourced with what they're doing here. This is just a program within Google Cloud that I was pointing out. And then there's the Node engine. So this is their introduction to blockchain node engine, which is a fully managed node hosting for development of Web3. Now, when Google's coming in hard into Web3 with infrastructure and pushing it, this is really good news for the ecosystem and the industry. It's now got like the backing. The blockchain node engine allows them to consist of transaction data that is permanently stored and encrypted, acting as a decentralized database of sorts. Instead of relying on a central entity to validate and store data, the governing infrastructure of a blockchain is a node, a device such as a computer, a laptop, or a server that contains a full copy of the transacting history of the blockchain. Nodes on the blockchain form a peer-to-peer network, constantly exchanging the latest blockchain data so that all nodes are in sync. While self-managed nodes are often difficult to deploy and require constant management, blockchain node engine is fully managed node hosting service that can minimize the need for node operations. Web3 companies who require dedicated nodes can relay transactions, deploy smart contracts, and read or write blockchain data with reliability, performance, and security they expect from Google Cloud Compute and networks.
Any layer 1 protocol is running compute containers, generally on a cloud of some kind. And what we're all doing right now is figuring out, okay, where are blockchain technologies most optimally deployed? Where does it make total sense? We say, oh my God, I cannot believe we haven't been doing this before. And then there's also a chance where we're going to say, hey, I think we need a blockchain here. We try it, and it's it doesn't work. The cloud provision, where we're at, we're a layer 0. The way that the image I build for people is we're a concrete foundation. So all the blockchains are building different types of structures. Some blockchains are good for payments. Some blockchains are good for applications. Some blockchains are good for gaming. My view is they all need to be built on a concrete foundation. So cloud is actually that foundation. It's agnostic. So you could build a skyscraper, you could build a bakery, you could build a house. Our idea is we just pour that for you.
So Flare is actually going to be one of the first, probably right behind that, the actual node software itself. So they're going to help scale Web3. And Web3 is the exact opposite of the World Economic Forum's you're going to own nothing and be happy. Web3 is the exact opposite of that. That's how I think we've just explained it to the community. It's the exact opposite. So if you don't like that and that freaks you out with the World Economic Forum thing, then here's your chance to participate. Here's your chance to be a part of the new financial system. Because I'm telling you now, it's not the CBDCs, it's not the central banks, it's right here and it's happening right in front of you. So we have an opportunity to participate. It does show you all the APIs. So you could see here's all the different networks. You got Algorand API, Bitcoin API, Costin API, Costin Explorer API, Costin 2, and now Flare's running all the infrastructure on these networks, probably in clusters of Kubernetes containers with the different nodes and applications that they're going to be doing there. So this is it's not just, hey, we got to hope everyone's going to run these nodes. We have infrastructure providers and we have the Flare team building. I know that was a little technical, but it's really important that everyone understands that Google's entry into Web3 and Flare being there, chosen from the beginning, is significant. So they obviously saw something that, hey, they're going to work with those engineers. And Google doesn't do that with every, enterprise that signs up. They only chosen part of this supercharged growth program for Web3. Engaged. 20 validators are on the mainnet. 4 run by the Flare Foundation, 16 run by Flare partners, with 4 each. So this is now decentralized in the sense that we already have 20 validators and it's decentralized, and we haven't even brought the FTSOs in. Now, these aren't some rinky-dink infrastructure providers. These are professional, institutional grade infrastructure providers. So they're going to spread out and they want business from, and they want to show that they run the best software. They have the most uptime and they do the right thing. So they're going to want to sell that software and those services to other entities who are going to want to run validators and who are going to want to delegate. They all running an FTSO too. And we are actually live right now on Songbird with a node, and we are live on Flare Network with our node. So we're supporting the ecosystem and supporting the networks. So validators can be seen right here on Toa Labs' website. And this shows the list. So let's see. We have Blockdaemon running 4, and it shows their version of the software. It shows the uptime and the status. Everyone's been 100%. Now, Blockdaemon and Figment are the 2 biggest institutional infrastructure providers here. Now, Into the Block is like an intelligence data. It's actually a really cool website. It's free. I'm not promoting. I have no sponsors. I'm just saying it because when I was looking into it, they have like a 7-day trial thing, but I don't get paid for them. It's not a sponsorship or anything. But it was interesting because it had all the DeFi statistics of the on-chain details that you don't get on a chart. So those charts are only going to be one tool. There's new tools that you need to pay attention to. This isn't stocks. This isn't commodities. These are new asset classes. So how many accounts were created this month? And you're going to need to know that when it comes to layer 1. And then when it comes to DeFi, what's the TVL? What's the liquidation risks? What's the amount of revenue that protocol generated? What's the vesting period? Like there's so many different details to that a protocol could have that supports it. And then it has its own governance token. And those are 2 separate things that the protocol, like Uniswap, could do really well and create revenue, but it doesn't go to the token holders. But then something like Compound, it does. Or Yearn, it does go to the token holders. So every DeFi protocol is a little different. I just thought that was a great website. So Into the Block here. So on-chain data resources. But this is the on-chain on the blockchain where it really counts. Those exchanges are all coming to the blockchain. We got to get used to not paying as much attention to them. They are not the golden source of truth for blockchain. They are not even the golden source of truth for price. They are an off-chain legacy, and they're pivoting. Look at Coinbase. They're creating Coinbase Cloud because they know their business model is not sustainable, because they need to integrate with the blockchain. They need to have liquidity that connects to other networks and other exchanges. So they've pivoted dramatically, just like Ripple has pivoted.